Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Today is Saturday, January 9th, and I am happy to be saying hello to you and providing a brief update on what's going on, tell you a little bit about the tobacco I'm smoking today, and well, just to say hello. So today I have my 7LE622, very wonderful pipe. I really like the shape. I'm going to have to get more of these. It's a bent pot, or at least I'm calling it a bent pot. Just a nice large chamber, smokes really well. And in it, I'm very excited to say, I am smoking the celebrated Bengal Slices. And you know that it's celebrated because it says so right here on the tin. Now, Bengal Slices, you've probably heard of them. It's an old blend. I smoked a fair amount of Bengal Slices back when it was available, and I'll tell you something about that after we talk about the tobacco, because I want to talk about this incarnation of it. So this is a product of Standard Tobacco, which is a company here in Pennsylvania, and I've seen a couple different versions of this. They definitely have gotten access to the not the copyright, the trademark, because this tin art is identical to what was on the original Bengal Slices. The original tins were rectangular. They're actually a really neat small rectangular tin, but the art is identical. I've seen some sources say that they got the patent, which suggests they may have gotten the recipe as well. They worked with Russ Ouellet. I'm sorry, Russ, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but he's the blender behind some fantastic blends like Black House, White Knight, and notably Fusiliers Ration, which is a very good blend that was done as a blend sort of pointing to Bengal Slices, but I think Russ himself has said that it was not intended to be a copy, but an homage to that blend. However, in this case, they had access to enough information to try to really replicate the blend, and that's what this is supposed to be. At least that's my understanding. So it's currently available exclusively through Pipes and Cigars, although I think that ultimately it will be more widely distributed. And Standard Tobacco has recently released a number of blends, like over the past couple of months. Some of the John Cotton blends, I haven't tried them, but they're getting a lot of good press. So definitely a company to look into and keep an eye on. This tobacco, and I'll focus on this and then we'll talk about the old stuff, it's good. It's a really nice blend. I'm just reading off the back of the tin here. It's crumble cake made of Cyprian Latakia, outstanding Orientals, bright Virginias, and a touch of black Cavendish, finished with a subtle top note. So it is a crumble cake, and if memory serves, that is a distinction between this and the original Bengal Slices. I mean, it seems obvious that Bengal Slices would have been slices, and I do remember them being, sort of small slices all stacked up in that little tin. But this is a crumble cake, and you can see there it's a loose crumble cake. It's very reminiscent in the way it crumbles. It's reminiscent of that Hearth and Home Burley. I think it's called Burley cake. That's interesting. Something's just occurring to me as I say that regarding the topping as well. But it does crumble quite easily. The tobacco itself, let me see if I can just get this up. It's nice, lots of dark components in there. The tin note is very much one of Latakia and some topping, and I have difficulty with the topping. It's a nice woodsy, smoky flavor, scent rather. The topping is there. It's not heavy. I just can't identify it. I can't pin it down. But if you've had, I think it's called Burley cake, which is a Hearth and Home crumble cake made of burley. It also has a topping, and the topping is reminiscent of that, and also just the feel of the cake. The flavors are worlds apart. The cake does seem to be, there's layers to it, so there's what you could almost call a slice. It rubs out very easily. I honestly just crumble it. I haven't really gone to a great deal of effort to rub it out. And it lights well, it burns well. I'm not having a lot of issues with the burn at all, so the moisture level is pretty good. It's actually a bit drier than you might expect from a cake. But all in all, it's ready to smoke out of the tin, in my opinion. In terms of the flavor profile, it's so the Virginias, to me, to my palate, and I'm not a Virginia smoker, I can't detect them. I'm sure they're there. I'm sure they're providing a base to this. And the thing about this blend that most impresses me is just the overall wholeness of it, the balance in the components, and the fact that it does present just sort of one unified flavor profile. It's complex. If you work, you can pick out different components of that profile, but it's not, a Virginia with some Latakia in it. It's a different beast altogether. So on the first light, and I may have to relight now because I've been talking. No, that worked. When you first light it, the overwhelming flavor profile to me is one of the Orientals. I pick up the Orientals right away. They're sweet, they're a little bit smoky, there's a little bit of spiciness to them, and probably the top note, but I'm really having difficulty identifying and isolating the top note here. It works really well with the Orientals. It's almost like a component of the Orientals, and it may be that I'm not detecting the topping, I'm just detecting the Orientals. They're that close together. And then there's the Latakia, and the first light, it's Orientals, then Latakia, and the Latakia is in perfect balance with the Orientals. If you want to focus on one or the other, you can. It's just wonderful how well balanced these are, and I think the Black Cavendish that's in there is helping with that a lot. It's mellowing, it's bringing those together, and it's providing some sweetness. If I had to describe this smoke in like one phrase, I would say that it's a smoky, sweet, creamy tobacco. It has a fantastic mouthfeel. It's a very heavy smoke, and there's a lot of flavor to it. And it's a very natural flavor. It's not, the topping, as I say, is almost not noticeable. It's more noticeable in the tin than it is in the pipe. Some have said that it's licorice. It's not revealed in the description or on the website. I don't get licorice at all. I just don't know what it is. Again, the Virginias, if you're a long-time Virginia smoker, maybe you'll be able to pull something out there. I think it's just all mixed into this very balanced profile that I quite enjoy. As you get through the bowl, the last third, maybe a little bit less than that, the very end of the bowl, the Latakia seems to take over more. It becomes a little bit salty, and maybe a bit sour, but in a good way. And you're left with sort of good English finish. So overall, it's fantastic. Now the question is it Bengal Slices? Is it the original tobacco? And I smoked a fair amount of that. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that have smoked a lot more Bengal Slices than I have. But this goes back to when I was first starting pipe smoking. And it's interesting. I think a lot of folks go through the same journey when they begin. You pick up a drugstore pipe, you get a pouch of whatever's on the shelf near the drugstore pipe, and in my case it was Captain Black White Label. And for a long time I thought the world of tobacco was that shelf in the Rite Aid drugstore. I had no concept that there were other tobaccos available for pipes. And eventually I found Tinderbox, and Tinderbox was great. And I think typically what happened in that time was you would find a Tinderbox, you would find a local brick and mortar, and your eyes would be opened and you'd start trying new things. And at some point you go back and revisit the Captain Black and think, how did I smoke this stuff? At least that was my experience. No offense to Captain Black smokers, it is the most sold tobacco in the world. I don't understand it, but that's the truth. So, I went on that same journey, and I guess today the brick and mortar has been somewhat replaced by the internet and YouTube and things like that, and that's okay. That it's a shame that the brick and mortars can't sustain, but at least the information is still there. So I found the tinderbox staff weren't very helpful. It was in a busy mall, and it was a great place to buy a pipe. But in terms of sampling tobaccos and learning about them, the staff wasn't, in my case, all that knowledgeable. And I'm sure they were well intentioned, but I was a bit intimidated as well, just by the sheer information overload and not knowing what to ask or what to look for. But I found a small pipe store in just outside of Pittsburgh. It was called the Continental Pipe Shop, and it's still there today. It's changed to Continental Smoke Shop, which is just a sign of the times, I suppose. I haven't been there in 20-some years, so I have no idea what it's like. But at the time, it was this wonderful old-style pipe shop. It had this U-shaped glass counter in the center with all the pipes on display and the jars of tobacco on top of it. And I walked in the first time, and sitting there in the middle of this U-shape was this woman who had to be somewhere in 65, 70-year-old range, sitting on a chair, reading a book and smoking a corncob pipe. And, to me at the time, this was one of the most comical things I had seen, because I had no idea that women smoked pipes, and at the time it wasn't as common as it is today. I mean, today it's not that common. To me, a corncob pipe was a prop or something you stuck in a snowman. I didn't know people still smoked them. But she was a wonderful woman. She was very kind. She asked me what I wanted, and I basically told her I didn't know anything about tobacco, and she explained the world of tobacco to me from her point of view. Now, warning, what I'm about to say is not true. She told me that there were two types of tobacco. There was English and aromatic, and I didn't want aromatic. That's what she told me. And so that was the beginning of my anti-aromatic bias. For a long time after that, I believed that if it wasn't an aromatic, it was an English blend. And it was much, much later that I began to understand that there was more complexity to the world of tobacco than that. But it was a starting point. And she told me to look at the Englishes, to open up the jars and smell them, to pick a few and try them. And I did that, and for a while I worked my way through that selection. And frankly, most of them were Lane tobaccos that were just jarred and rebranded. But I eventually hit on a tobacco called Number 10 Downing Street, which was a Lane blend, and I loved it. It became my daily smoke, and I would still be smoking it today if it were still available. I really wish that Lane would bring back Number 10 Downing Street. It was just a good middle-of-the-road English blend. But for treats, I would buy a tin now and then. And I couldn't afford to smoke from the tins all the time, but I could afford occasionally to get a tin and maybe on a weekend have that blend instead. And one of the ones that I went through some of the Dunhills. I remember Early Morning Pipe and Nightcap and some of the others. But I tried Bengal Slices, and I just loved it. And it became my sort of go-to treat for quite a few years. And then it was discontinued, and it went away. So this Bengal Slices, I was really excited to try again. Is it the same as what I was smoking back then? I have no idea. I think it's impossible to say. I mean, I can't remember the flavor. I remember the experience, but I can't tell you if it was the same experience as what I'm having now. I can tell you that both were good experiences, and that when I tried Bengal Slices back then, I wanted more, and when I tried it now, I want more. What I will say is that when I smoke Fusilier's Ration, the other one that's often pointed to as a copy is Lancer Slices, which I haven't had. I'd like to try that at some point. When I smoke Fusilier's Ration, I think this is a really nice tobacco. I don't know if it's Bengal Slices or not. When I smoke the standard tobacco Bengal Slices, I think this is something familiar. This feels right to me. But I can't tell you if it's the same thing. I really don't know. And I don't care. Frankly, what's gone is gone, and there's lots of really good new tobacco blends available. And we could just think of this as one of them. Or we can think of it as a copy or an exact replicate or whatever you want. It's good. You should try it, and I think you'll enjoy it. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is, and if you're a cigar smoker, you'll have a much better feeling for this. The tobaccos vary so much based on where they're grown and the weather conditions, and that even if you had the exact recipe and you had the original blender, if you could bring the original blender in and say, here's all the ingredients listed in your recipe, make me that blend, it may be something very different, because the tobaccos can't possibly be the same. The only way to really recreate it would be to have the tobaccos locked away in a vault somewhere at that time, and then pull them out. But even then, you're going to have aging and fermentation occurring. So you can't bring back an old blend. It's just not possible. But that doesn't mean you can't enjoy a new blend, and that's what I'm doing with this one. So I hope you give it a try. If you do, please let us know. I think it's a tobacco that deserves some attention, and just based on the pedigree and the folks involved here, I think it's going to get attention. So I'll look forward to hearing other people's opinions of Bengal Slices. Well, that's about it for me today. I don't have a lot in the way of other updates. The retort video posted, and I got a lot of nice comments from that. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I think it turned out well. The comments that I most appreciate are the people that say they learned something. I'm really glad. That's why I made it, was that so you can learn something. And it was I think it was Grandpa Cavendish who said that now that he's seen it, if you have the parts, it's simple, and that's the whole point. Everything that I'm doing is simple. If it wasn't simple, I wouldn't be doing it. And it's things that you can do. So if you have a pipe that's really badly ghosted and you want to retort it, you should be able to do that. It's not that hard. You just need the parts. So that's why I'm doing those videos, and I hope that that they're providing that kind of resource for you all. So there's a new project in progress right now. I'm working on a Stanwell pipe. It's given me a lot of trouble, and I've decided that I am going to post it, because you might as well see the ups and downs. It's not the thing that I'm most proud of, but it's a pipe that had a lot of sentimental value, and I didn't want to do too much to it. I didn't want to change certain things about it. So you're going to see as I go through this that I'm sometimes pulling back or sometimes changing the approach. In the end, I have a pipe that I'm happy with, that I can keep in my rack and occasionally smoke, and that's all that I wanted. If this was an estate pipe that I was just trying to bring back to life, quite frankly, I think I probably would have called this a loss. So should be an interesting set of videos for you to watch with keeping that in mind. And I will post the first of those this coming Wednesday. So with that, I will say goodbye. I hope you all have a good weekend and a great week coming up, and I'll look forward to talking to you again soon. Take care, everyone.